Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classic Lesson and Classics. This is episode number 1861 and Doubleshot number 1755. I have two Batman related trades. First up it is Batman Number Legends Volume 2. Let's collect the stories. Yes, the stories. Pretty much the rest of the stories from issues 1 through 6, along with stories of issues 8 through 10. Yep. Now, some of these stories are just standalone. Like, about 2 or 3 of these stories are just one-shot stories. The rest are just multi-parters. Okay, now, these are your stories for you. You have technically 2 stories featuring this one. You have The Outsiders, stories called The Caretaker, written by Brandon Thomas and artwork by Max Sturder. This story is simply put, basically Katana and Black Lightning reunite as the Outsiders, and they're joined by Metamorpho, fresh off his terrific series. Yes. Yeah, that was the last book he was featured in. And I'm thinking, like, why the heck would it take so long for him to return to this book? That's a really good question. Now, I'm happy the fact he's here. Oh, yeah, I'm happy the fact he's here. Because I think it was The Terrifics was the last unofficial book he was featured in. Yeah. Actually, I think it was Justice League, not Justice League Task Force. It was Doomsday Clock. Yeah. And he's here. The story's only here for the first 3 issues, and 8 and 9. And that's it. Yeah. Yeah, he was in the Terrific Series actually up until issue 30. Yeah, with issue 30 he left the team. Yeah. Actually, that was the final issue. That was 30 reissues. My mistake. Yeah. It's just a terrific story, this one is. I love it. Name everything he does. Now, there's no Outsiders on this. Brandon Thomas did that one. Nope, that's done by Kane Tamorori. Actually, he does do the writing for that one, but it's different artists this time. That one is simply put what the Outsiders went up to during the events of Fear State. That's not Fear State. Yeah, basically Fear State. It's but what they were up to during the whole thing. That's basically just to that one. Now, Outsiders in The Caretaker, that's from issues 1 through 6. The next story is by far a story that is very much hated by a lot of comic readers. And probably by far the worst story of the entire series so far. Features Tim Drake. You're thinking, Tim Drake, usually featuring good stories. No, this is a bad one. Oh, yes. Now, he has featured occasionally in bad stories. Titan/Young Justice Graduation Day is one of them. And also the Ambition stuff with Robin. Some of Our Parts, written by Megan Fritzman, art by Dadila Ortega. This is a story that's hated by everybody when the story came out. Because, for some stupid reason, DC Comics, mostly this writer, decided to out Tim Drake as bisexual. Yes, seriously. Someone at DC thought this was a good idea. Take Tim Drake, a character was created by Marv Wolfman. Yes, Marv Wolfman created Tim Drake. Let's see if I can find the... I'm just trying to make sure I get this correct here. Because it was like Marv Wolfman... Pat Broderick. There's actually like 4 guys credited for creating Tim Drake. It was Marv Wolfman and Pat Broderick. That was the first. That was the character. Now this book, like, okay, we started Tim Drake in a hurry going on a date. Is it on a date with Stephanie Brown? No, apparently they broke up off screen. I do not know why in the world they thought this was a good idea, but they did. Despite the fact that there was nothing wrong with the relationship. Last time we seen them together, they were perfectly happy. Here, apparently, they broke up, and he means, oh yeah, he still loves Stephanie, but despite the fact he's going on a date with a guy. Who is it, may I ask? A guy by the name of Bernard Wren, I think his name is. Yeah. And this was a guy who was last seen back in Robin, number 140. This was when the first was ongoing volume. This after it was crime stuff. Love the artwork here. I love the artwork. It's freaking gorgeous. And then oh, here he is, Brian Down, who apparently had a thing for Robin. And then by the end of this three-parter, after rescuing him, he gets asked by him on another date. And apparently these two are a couple now. This story was it wasn't like the driving force of another story that's in here, which by the way is a Christmas story, which is called Tim Drake Carol Bats, also by the same person. It's basically from, I think it's issue 10, I think it is. Let's see, I think it's issue 10. Yeah, it's issue 10. Yeah. I've laid my thoughts out when it comes to this particular storyline. That the whole thing of Tim Drake being out of this bisexual, in my opinion, and a lot of people agree with me on this, is a terrible idea. This was stupid. And by far, here's the strange thing. You know what Tim Drake pops in their books aside from this one? Is never brought up. Nope. Never is. Maybe because a lot of writers don't want anything to do with this. Because they realize, though, this is stupid. I'm not sure how Marv Wolfman feels about a character he created being out as bi. Look, I have no problem with characters being bisexual. That's not the issue. The issue is Tim Drake being out of this bisexual is just as bad as Iceman being out of this gay is just as bad. It's a bad idea, and I kind of wish a writer would come along and say this whole thing was utterly stupid and say he was never bi and put him back in a relationship with Stephanie Brown, because that relationship felt like was going someplace. Possible marriage, possibly? Do not know. But it is by far, this story is the most hated story of this entire series. No, don't get me wrong. It's not a terrible series per se. It's just that this story arc is bad. Oh my gosh, this one's so bad. The only good about this thing is the artwork. The artwork is gorgeous. I love the artwork. It's just the story is just bad. Let's bring up reference it mildly in the follow-up story. Where it's Tim Drake calling his boyfriend. And by the way, the Celeste said that basically Tim was going to tell the Batman family about his bisexuality. I read the story. Nope. The solicitation for this story is nothing more than a big fat lie on the part of DC Comics. And to top it all up, someone at DC thought it was a good idea to collect this whole entire thing in a trade paperback. This two-story, that's this story arc. Now, I have no problem being here because it's Batman Legends. Fine. Whatever. It's just that if it's not to be anyplace else, this is the only place it needs to be. And a friend of mine basically saying that for some stupid reason, they're canceling the Damian Wayne Robin title to give Tim Drake his own Robin series. And it's from the same person. He has deemed this book not canon because the fact that this whole story thing is stupid. Really, really stupid. It is by far a terrible idea. Yes. Moving on to some better stuff. We have Azrael, done by Dan Walters, who actually did a Sandman book. I think he did The Dreamers, I believe he did. Yes. The Azrael story is from 4 through 6, mind you. Like in the case of the Tim Drake stuff? No. We have... Now, 4 had the Batwing and Super Punch. That was a standalone story. That was the only other story that was actually not collected from this thing. They put that right after some other stories in here. Yes. Now, the Azrael story, which I think this may have been from a different issue. Maybe issue 8. What is it? I'm trying to look and see exactly where in the world this was at. Issue 5 did have one of the stories in here, Batgirl Wildcards. Mm-hmm. We're trying to see exactly where in the world this one came from this book. Okay, it actually is from issues. I think it's from issues 8 through 10. I believe it is. Because a lot of these stories tend to be like 3 parts, and that's it. Yeah, that's where this is from. Mm-hmm. Now, what kind of story is the Azrael story? The Azrael story is it's a story that Dan Walters does. Mm-hmm. Where it actually is sort of set up for something more for Azrael. Yes. Yeah, and by the way, like, this technically was the first story he was featured in, like, right after the cancellation of just, like, Odyssey, because he returned to Earth. This is the first story he featured in. Yes. It took a while for him to return, but he did finally return. Of course, his next appearance is going to be in Arkham City. Yes, it's a miniseries called Arkham City. Ghost in the Machine is a Oracle story. Yes, it's a standalone Oracle story from issue number, I believe it's 4. I believe because they included like all the one-shot stories in these issues. Mm-hmm. Yes, I did. The Oracle one that is actually from. Let's see, is it from 2? Yes, Oracle and the Ghost Machine. That's actually from issue number 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where this one's from. It's just a good standalone story for Oracle. Now, you might be thinking, does this lead to anything like the Azrael would? No, which is a quick standalone story. Next up is Wildcard. This is the Batgirl story, where it features a story where you have Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown being the spoilers. And this would lead someplace. A Batgirl series. Yes, Soup Punch is the Batwing story. This is from issue 5, done by Karamis Johnson. It's a really good standalone story for him. He takes on Killer Croc for the first time. Yep, Killer Croc, the Riddler. Absolutely really good story here. Yep. Now, this would not lean to anything. It's just a quick little standalone story for him. Next up is a story for Batwoman. Yes, which I should point out, this is the first solo outing for her since the cancellation of her ongoing series. I believe back in 2018, I think it was. This is called Fear State Disinformation Campaign. This one is from issues 8 and 9. It's a 2-parter. It's another Fear State tie-in storyline. It's mostly put what basically Batwoman was doing during the events of Fear State. And this one feels like a semi-continuation of the classic story done by Greg Rucka. Yes, because features Red Alice. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Betty came in here where, for some reason, they said she was Red Alice with Beth Kane. That does not make any sense because, well, say she was Beth Kane. Yeah. There is Betty Kane. And then we have Renee Montoya showing up. Which, yes, I love the fact they refer to her as Kate's ex-girlfriend because these two used to date. Yes. They were apparently starting at the end of the Batwoman ongoing series, and apparently they broke up, and now she's with a different girl. Yeah, in case you're curious though, when in the world did this happen with Renee Montoya becoming the commissioner of the GCPD? This happened right after the events of Joker War. Yep. Now I love this story. You have Batwoman teaming up with Cassandra Cain, who is in her Batgirl costume. Yeah, it's basically what they were up to. It's an absolute really good two-parter. Red Alice makes an appearance in here. It's just so awesome. I love this story, and you might beg the question, why isn't there a Batwoman ongoing series right now if this is so freaking good? Answer, I have no idea. Yeah. Despite the fact this is sort of a Fear State story with the Outsiders, it's more of a Future State one. Yep. Now, this is from issues, I believe it's like 8 through 10. Yes, this is where they return. And I think if you want some present stuff here, the last story is basically, that's in here, is a Nightwing story. Yes, it's a Nightwing story called Christmas Bad Spent by Tina Howard, who actually is not the current. Now, they do have Nightwing in here sporting his current outfit in the design he basically is using in the Tom Taylor run. This actually is from issue 10, and it's really good. It's a good Christmas story for him. Now, aside from the Tim Drake stuff, almost all the stories in here are really good. Now, I should also point out, though, that this series tends to publish double-set issues every time. And this series costs the most. Because I've seen how much these things cost in a comic shop. Do you know how much each issue costs for this damn thing? About almost $10 an issue. Almost $10, yes, for Urban Legends. I give this book I'm going to give it a 9 out. I'm going to give it a 9.5, but they had to include a Tim Drake story. Yep. That's the only thing bad about the thing is stuff with Tim Drake, which I still think is a terrible idea. Because it's just not that good. Yeah, this is like, it's like the first trade collects just two features. And then I guess they figured though, oh, why don't we just have a trade that collects pretty much the rest of the stories? Now, issue 7 is not here for a good reason. You might be thinking, okay, why is issue 7 in this trade? Well, there's a good reason for that. It's a story that features, well, Batman Beyond. Yeah, it's basically an alternate timelines thing where you have, basically Batman Beyond after the cancellation of his book. You have Damian from Batman in Bethlehem, but that's basically the one that made his debut in Batman 666. And then you have an orphan story, which is from Future State, and then you have DC 1 Million. Yeah, just basically like a future story that's mainly put what it is. And unknown why that one was put in here. Maybe they might include it in another Batman Urban Legends book. Now, if you're curious though, how many issues so far has this book put out? You might think it's only 10 per se. No, it is roughly 16 issues. 16, yeah. 16 is the most recent issue to be released. And that issue pretty much wrapped up like a lot of storylines happened in the book. Yeah, so they first started with doing 3 stories issue. Then I do like 1, 2, 3, like 4 stories an issue. Yeah. So, still a good series. It's just that the Tim Drake stuff was completely necessary. Alright, moving on to a different book, we have The Birds of Prey. This is basically Birds of Prey Whitewater, collecting issues of Birds of Prey 104 to 112. This does contain the final 5 issues of this book, done by Gail Simone, well, her original run anyway, before she came back for the relaunch after DC, during events of Batman Reborn, though she couldn't finish up the run. The last 3 issues done by somebody else. Now, this storyline is very popular with a lot of people because, well, not only is Gail Simone's last story arc she did for the book, this also is the return of the Secret Six. Yes, it's the Birds of Prey versus the Secret Six, which had Harley Quinn join the team. Yep. in a very excellent storyline. And then they deal with the Spy Smasher in here, which, by the way, Spy Smasher in this book is a woman. And Lady Blackhawk does bring up the original Spy Smasher, who was a guy. Yes, a guy. And the thing about Katerina Armstrong, that's the woman's name, she actually is somebody who does know Barbara Gordon prior to becoming Spy Master, and she practically forced her off the team because she didn't like her, and it took basically her calling a bunch of favors in, including pretty much all the women she knows, including Wildcats and members of the JSA, in order to deal with her. And then you have Lady Blackhawk basically flying her away. Yep. Now, this storyline here would also feature, get this, I believe it was in the first issue that Tony Bedard did when they had this happen. Let me take a look. I just want to be sure I get this correct because I don't want to be chastised in the comments because I got this part wrong. Because Tony Bedard takes over issue 109. Why in the world they picked this issue for him to take over? I do not know. Yes. Okay. So, 109 is a start of a very infamous storyline for DC Comics. The storyline is simply, okay, this issue is when they kill off Knockout. Yes, Knockout gets killed by this unnamed God Killer, where she has an argument with Scandal Savage, which, by the way, these two apparently just finished having sex because of all butt naked. So she just puts her clothes back on, walks out, and then she confronts a guy who ends up murdering her. And this sparks off a storyline that will continue a little bit in the Countdown, but would basically set up a mini-series known as Death of New Gods by Jim Starlin, which pretty much has all New Gods get pretty much massacred in the whole story. And after the events of, I think it was 52, or at least somewhere in our book, they were apparently reborn on the Fifth World in another universe. I have no idea why the hell it was a good idea, but that's basically what they did. The Spy Fake of Green here on the cover, he does not appear in the book at all. Nope, not really. Maybe a flashback. But yeah, that's what 109 does. Kicks off that particular thing. This whole thing was about, well, Big Barda, you have Scandal confronting, the Scandal, you have Knockout confronting Big Barda, who was in a different attire, mind you. And then you have a story with a Huntress. Where apparently we did stuff with Oracle in here. It's just really good stuff here. I thoroughly enjoy this. For someone who does enjoy this series. And it's quite nice they did this. Basically, this is a combination, and roughly, by the way, I give this book a 9.5. I believe this book is a combination of two different trades. Yes. Like the before with this particular book, they pretty much, in a way, they just combined two trades into one for these new collect editions for Birds of Prey. Yes. Yeah, they pretty much combined Dead of Water and Club Kids. Yeah, they pretty much combined both the... Well, minus issue 118. That's the only issue they not included in here. They'll probably include it in the next book. But yeah, that's what they do. They took two trades released back in 2009, combined with one. This is the first one released in Inspired by Trade. Unknown why they couldn't basically include issues 92 to 103 in other trade. I do not know why in the world that... Now, this was of the new printing of these Birds of Prey trades, that this is the third one they released. I've already reviewed Fires by Trade, which collect issues 81 and 91. I have not reviewed for Hero Hunters issue, which collected issues 68 to 80. I have not reviewed that yet. I might review that in the future, but it depends on when I get my hands on it. But I love Birds of Prey. I kind of wish DC would collect a little bit more of this stuff. Like, I like the fact they basically combine two trades into one. That's great. I love it. But they should collect more. Yes, they should. Like, they can have the next book cover issues 92 to 103. It is roughly 11 issues, but it all depends upon DC Comics. Yes, they are slowly trying to collect more of the stuff done by Gail Simone, which that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. Actually, no, this is actually the fourth trade. Yeah, for some reason they skipped over 11 issues. Actually, more like 12 issues. I'm not really sure why, but they did. They might collect in the future. Who knows? Yep. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for particular review because I don't have more time to right now because I got to go soon. So expect later on, you see 2 more comic corners, review for Free Revolution, and case closed. Okay, so next video. Bye.